morning. How's everybody this morning? I want to show you something that surprised me. There's a very fresh feel, and I know there was some rain the other day. Actually, there's another sign here in the early morning, but everything was dry when I went out and didn't even think there was rain. Somebody told me after it had rained, there's water there on the wood, and there's a lot of water over here at the map, so it must have rained very heavily. And I didn't notice. I thought I heard rain at some point, but earlier. Look at all the water that's in here. And there's no sprinkler that provides that kind of water. So there must have been good rain. You can also hear the birds here under these trees. Also at night time, in the evening time when the sun is set, they sing a lot here. You can probably hear the rumbling of the airplanes as well, still going. Last night there were a lot. Early around 10 o'clock yesterday evening. Just a lot of planes were in action. I'm tempted to do a little bell ring here, but I want to do it long or loud for the sake of, in case anybody is within earshot. Although it's not so early now, it's almost 7. Just that little bit. That shouldn't wake up anybody, hopefully. There's a plane up above us, but it's not. My eyes don't see where it is. Today there's a lot of talk about mountains in Isaiah, so it's nice that we have Mount Arbel here. Let's look at the text. It's always good to read the text of Scripture. In times of hurt and uncertainty, and all times it's good to read Scripture, but especially in times of hurt and uncertainty. We're in a dialogue. It's like if we're alone and disconcerted and we meet somebody, we can talk, we can share what we're feeling. Somehow I noticed very intense light through a little hole in the cloud. Not sure if the sun is right there or not. It was very intense there a moment ago. And the one on the left, although both seem to have a similar brightness now. Keep an eye on them. If the sun is down that far, we'll have a hard time expecting the sun disk on this live stream. In times of uncertainty and difficulty, it's always good to have company, to be able to talk with somebody, to see how they're seeing it, how they're seeing life, the challenges of the moment, And humanity is facing big challenges at the moment in many places. And we are feeling it here also. Yeah, that has to be the sun. Look at the light that's coming through there, reflecting on the lake. It's an unusual format. And when we engage with Scripture, we're entering into a dialogue with God. The writers were. The writers felt God was inspiring them. Imagine that little plant, and then eventually it will be a tree. And it's coming out of a stump right there. Another one on this side. And more along here. That's a nice one. Let's keep an eye on that light. One side has faded a little. So let's look at Isaiah more than 2.5 millennia ago. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts, referring to Mount Zion in Jerusalem, on this mountain, and this is Mount Arbel in Galilee in case anybody is confused. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples a feast of rich food and choice wines. Yeah, the sun is right there. It's very clear now to me. So my prediction was wrong. We mightn't see the whole sun disk, but it's right there. Two of our Egyptian geese there. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples a feast of rich food and choice wines. Juicy, rich food and pure, choice vines. So we're in the time of exile. And there's a promise in the midst of the darkness of so much light. It's will, it's future. He will do it. He will do it. And meanwhile, there's a lot of darkness until it's fulfilled. But He will do it. So the person in dialogue with God in difficult times also has a vision of the future. We're in this dialogue and we're opened up, our minds are opened up to consider beyond the perimeters of the darkness of our experience immediately. A lot of people talk about their favorite restaurant. I don't think I've ever, that was never kind of a point of reference, but I've heard people talk so much about places. Their favorite restaurant. Of course, the rooftop restaurant in Notre Dame in Jerusalem, the view of the old city, but that's not just a restaurant then, that's not the food, that's the view, the context. I remember the restaurant on top of the Twin Towers in Manhattan. In Detroit, I worked many years there, and there was a restaurant on top of the Twin Towers. There was, not Twin Towers, and what was it called? The Renaissance Center. that would rotate. There was one also in Toronto that I never went to. I was always just busy for appointments. Went many times to Toronto when I was on the road in the United States and North America. And there was a tall building, and everybody who would go as a tourist to Toronto would go there. But I wasn't going there as a tourist. And what's your favorite restaurant? Well, my favorite restaurant is still to come. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples a feast of rich food and choice wines, juicy rich food and pure choice wines. On this mountain he will destroy the veil that veils all people. The veil that veils all people. And we see the cloud veiling the sun there. He will destroy the veil that veils all people. The veil will open up. And this is the vision of Isaiah. It's God inviting his people to understand their circumstance, to look beyond the rim of their plate of darkness, their situation of pain, of deprivation, of death. In fact, that's what is said in the next line. On this mountain he will destroy the veil that veils all peoples, the web that is woven over all nations, all peoples. We're all in the same boat. Look at how the light's gone now, and the curtain is drawn. I remember the hardest moment, and one of the hardest moments, emotional moments, in the funeral process of my mother, God rest her soul, was when they it was very hard for my dad, and they brought a little veil over her face before the closing of the coffin. The veil that veils all peoples, the web that is woven over all nations. He will destroy death forever. The Lord will wipe away the tears from every face. The reproach of his people he will remove from the whole earth. For the Lord has spoken. He will remove from the whole earth, from Syria, from Lebanon up behind those big mountains up there where the sun is striking. He'll wipe away the veil from the country of Jordan, which is down here. Behind that big tree there. But Jordan itself is in the screen now, at the very center of the screen. And we're standing here in Israel. And the web is woven over all nations. And God's vision, he is in a higher spot. We're here shaded by this cloud, we can't see the sun. But the people on that mountain there bordering Lebanon, they're able to see the sun disk for sure because the sun is striking that mountain. God is at a higher position, and it's good to enter into dialogue with him, with his word, to gain perspective on our lives, on our experience of grief and mourning, of violence, of sickness, of unemployment, financial duress, dire straits economically, broken friendships, people who have assumed very hostile attitudes and actions. We're offered a very different glimpse of reality. When we listen to another person's viewpoint, another person's experience, on that day it will be said in this future time, behold our God to whom we looked to save us. Behold, we looked for him to save us, but behold, he is here to see. This is the Lord for whom we looked. Let us rejoice and be glad, for he has saved us. What's the experience of entering heaven going to be like? Beyond the veil of death. For the hand of the Lord will rest on this mountain. On every mountain, Mount Everest, the Andes, the Alps, the Rockies, the Appalachians, the great mountains of Africa. On all mountains. Something has been catching my eye for the last few minutes, and it's this purple heron. And the interesting thing is, I'm pretty certain it's not standing on any branch. It's standing in the water. And that tells you how shallow the water is there. Just a few inches. I realized that because I was walking along the water for a moment. And that means when the water goes down another inch, it will expose a lot of the land, as has been happening in the last month or so, or less than a month even. All of this has become exposed, and the rate of reduction of water level is probably the same, but when it was over here, up there on the wall, almost to the top of those retaining walls, then we didn't notice it going down, but here we notice it very quickly as the land becomes exposed. And the psalm is very similar to the text of Isaiah. It's really beautiful. I shall live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. And in the measure that we participate in charity, we already foretaste that. In the measure we participate in forgiveness, receiving and giving forgiveness. In the measure we participate in helping and sustaining others, encouraging others, lifting them up. In the measure we participate in reconciling people who are antagonistic toward each other. In the measure that we lift up human dignity in the image and likeness of God and become a blessing for people. We're already experiencing a foretaste of that charity that is heaven. I shall live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Our famous Psalm 23. In verdant pastures he gives me repose. Beside restful waters he leads me. Beside restful waters. He guides me in right paths for his name's sake. He refreshes my soul. Even though I walk in the dark valley, I fear no evil. For you are at my side with your rod and your staff that give me courage. You spread the table before me in the sight of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Only goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life, forever. Oh, there we got the sun. Maybe I've gone overtime now, it's a warning as well. The interesting thing then about we have the gospel as well, is about the wedding feast, those invited, those who don't accept the invitation. Imagine not accepting an invitation to a friend who is inviting you to their wedding. Willfully not accepting it, or saying yes and not coming. The great invitation we all have to this wedding feast. Oh, there we got the sun in full blast here. So my prediction was wrong. I need to be filled with the hope of Isaiah. And then we go back to Paul just to finish up. It's a very interesting commentary. I know how to live in humble circumstances, but I also know how to live with abundance. I've learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry, being appreciated and celebrated, and of being rejected and despised. I can do all things in him who strengthens me. Still, it was kind of you to share in my distress. That charity that's building up, that's supporting, that's helping. People, may you be blessed to have a participation already in the fullness of the charity of the love of God forever. See you later, alligators. Have a very blessed Sunday morning. I'm going to catch this lady is flying again here. Somebody else had to leave to make room for that one. But in heaven there's room for everyone. Nobody will have to leave heaven to make room for us. God bless you people. See you later, alligators.